welcome to another video. So this one is the Specna Arms SA-02 CORE. So from my understanding, this is the sort of entry-level package. And I say package because you actually get a lot of stuff with it beside just the rifle. Obviously the normal format of this is I talk about it and then I gut it. So not much different, except there's a few bits before the gutting. So you obviously get the gun in the package, which is split in half, same as a normal VSR. So you get the upper receiver, the stock, and the stock is assembled with 3 screws. Top block, mid receiver, rear tang. Easy, goes together, no problem at all. In the package, you get 3 magazines, or at least I got 3. I'm pretty sure that you just get 3. I got this direct from Specna Arms, so I didn't pay for this. This was kindly sent to me for free, along with 2 other rifles, which are the Edge series, which I'll cover in other videos. So I think the retail on this is like £130 for people here in the UK. So it is a very, very cheap entry-level rifle. My main interest in this is what can we change? What are good things? What are things we need to be mindful of? And what can ultimately we swap out, if it even needs swapping out? Because sometimes things just might need to be stripped, cleaned, reassembled, and you're good to go. And this is at a price point where I do expect to have to do that. Getting back to the package, 3 magazines, you get a bipod. There is an adapter that comes with this bipod for the wrist rail, but this uses the bipod lug. This has a bipod lug, but it does also have the wrist rail. You get your standard sort of cheap entry airsoft scope that you get with a lot of stuff, and a couple of low profile scope mount. So for the price, in terms of just what you get with it, that's not too bad, right? That's reasonable price. Like everything, just use it until it breaks. 3 mags is probably all you're ever going to need. Bipod's nice, a lot of people don't bother using them, and scope, use it until it breaks. So this is the platform. So it's an M40A3 style stock. This one is in Multicam, and quality wise, it ain't bad. There's a few areas where I'm just a bit confused more than anything. Like here, the stock's molded, but then it's like it's got an additional part that was blocked in at the end. Like it's all together solidly, but that confused me more than anything else. But it goes together fine. You've got your adjustable stock riser, and obviously you've got rear pads here that you can change as well to increase the length. It's got a bottom bipod lug and bottom wrist mount and top wrist mount. Top is adjusted on the side, like most VSR style clones. That's pretty much all there is to talk about it on the outside. Like it looks and feels pretty good for the price. Like if I could somehow fashion a VSR to fit into this, that would be cool. I'd buy it just for the stock alone because I do quite like it. Out of the box, at least with mine, and I say with mine because you know these are mass assembled, right? It's going to vary batch to batch. I have no seal in this whatsoever. This would have been taken apart to have a new spring put in it because the UK limits are obviously a bit different. So take that as you may, but for me personally on this build, it has 0 seal, which is fine, right? There's rifles that cost 5 times as much, 4 times as much as this, that literally arrive in my hands with no seal. So if you're getting an airsoft sniper, step 1 before you do anything else is just take it all apart. Take it all apart, put it together. So 1, you can ensure you know how it works and goes together. And 2, because everything needs to be put together properly and there's grease and stuff that needs to be cleaned, because again, not just this, but rifles in general are kept in storage. This might have been sat on a shelf for 2 weeks. It might have been sat on a shelf for 12 months. You just don't know. So strip it, clean it, rebuild it is always my first step. So that's how I'm treating this. I'm not doing any upgrades today. I'm literally just stripping it, seeing what's inside, having a chat about it, and then putting it back together. And if along the way I can find what can and can't be upgraded, then I might do another video showing the potential of what can go into it. But for now, let's strip it apart. Top block screw, mid receiver, rear tang. Yeah, so I don't really know. I looked at some old videos of the platform, right, just to give myself a bit of a heads up of what to expect inside. And I think a lot of the content that at least I could see was based on an old version or generation of this, because I think, we'll see in a minute obviously, but I think this has 90-degree internals, whereas the previous ones were 45. So we'll get to that. But there's the stock. Again, it's not bad quality at all. The camo paint on it's quite nice. Nice and simple. There are areas in there that obviously if you want to quieten it down, you obviously want to pack out some of these areas. But otherwise, it's a good quality stock and I don't really foresee any issues with it. And it's got QD sling mounts front on either side and on back on either side. But again, for now we can pop that to the side. So, looks a bit different to a VSR. It's got an inbuilt mag well for a start, and the way the barrel assembly goes together looks to use a bracket system rather than a thread. So I'm going to safely assume the order is whip out the 2 screws in here, which are Phillips, get that off. Then I'm going to take a guess it's these 2 screws to get that barrel off. Trigger is your standard front and rear. So. But yeah, if this genuinely does have a 90-degree setup as stock for 130 odd pounds, 160 euros, whatever it is, that's genuinely not bad. Like, depending on what else you can put inside it, that's not a bad starting point at all. But magwell comes off. There's 2 Phillips screws in there. Top chamber looks a bit VSR. The underside cutout's very different, but the adjuster setup looks to be relatively similar. You've got your standard, it's a metal arm, but you can see the hop unit is very much open. It's not got the usual cutout you'd expect with the VSR chamber, mainly due to how the mags sit up and protrude into the chamber. So let's get this little adjuster off. Again, Phillips screwdriver. That's going to come off, and you're going to have the small different arm. Don't lose it, because that is a very small screw. Then I believe it's these 2 screws here. So I don't think this threads into the receiver so much as it lines up and then this bracket secures it. Let's go ahead and get that off. Yep, so there you go. So that is a bracket style system. So you can see that notch there lines up with a cutout here. Feels something else holding it in. So I'm going to take a guess that there is some form of retaining screw up here. Yep, so yeah, so be mindful there is a recess. The front screw up here, the very front one also slots in here. So if I take that out, so there's a screw hole here, scope rail screw goes through into that, and then the hop unit, if we start with that first, could slide out. A very weighty outer barrel, like that's got some heft to it. It has a threaded end, but you'd need to grab an adapter to put a suppressor on. No barrel spacers, but again, I would hazard a guess that standard VSR bases would fit into here to a point, or you could just print some. Top unit kind of looks like a VSR unit for the most part, except the front's been hacked off. Like, if you're familiar, that and that would be the hop unit. See, the bottom section essentially been cut out, have here, where the mag would go. And that is to allow, obviously, the thick part of the magazine to fit all the way up. And it's got a different nozzle. The nozzle looks more APS-2 than VSR, but that's the chamber, so it looks very VSR based. It's got plastic adjuster arms. It's a bit slack on this bit, but I imagine that's because there's no hop to be applied there. It's just a bit loose. But it does look like it's got a metal hop arm, so let's have a look at that. 2 screws on the rear section of the hop arm. Again, keep those safe. And then the chamber itself is 3 screws rather than the usual 2. You've got 2 at the top, then 1 down here. Go ahead, whip these 3 bad boys out. If you're familiar with the VSR system and VSR clamshell style chambers, which are basically chambers that are split in 2 halves across the mid plane, then you know there's probably a teeny tiny ball bearing or a teeny tiny spring that forms part of the adjuster, and that's what gives you that tactile click. If this has one, because I've felt no clicks. If it does, be careful because it can ping out. Otherwise, loosen these 3 screws and take this side off. So that's one half the chamber with your 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. One nice thing about this chamber that I can immediately tell you is because of the way the mag retains the BB in the mag rather than popping it into the chamber, is there's no horseshoe spring setup that you have to worry about when you're trying to close this. And on the hop arm, there is no ball bearing detent system on there to give you that click. So there's nothing to lose there, so you can put that to the side. Bucking, it is just a standard NBR rubber with a really, really small mound. So I wouldn't be surprised if this struggled to lift heavy ammo. But again, very easy fix. But I could be wrong because of the hop arms quite high on it. But it's a bridged barrel, so that's not ideal. You'd like to swap that out for a VSR unbridged. But the actual cut itself, so that side cut, that is a VSR cut. So you can put VSR barrels in this. So immediately, VSR barrels are good. VSR buckings, also good. So the fact that you can swap that out immediately is good. The hop arm on this, if I whip it out, is what would be a Type B hop arm, which basically means on the arm, to zoom in there, it's just a solid bar. There's no concave shape to it. It's just a solid bar. And this is just CNC'd, basically a very basic, but it is metal, so you're not going to get the same flex that you get in a lot of the stock polymer hop arms. So I don't mind this. And if you were to use a different bucking with a slightly bigger mound, if you didn't want to swap the barrel and you were happy just swapping a bucking because it's cheaper, something like a 9-ball or the Mad Ball Red, like the old traditional ones you'd see in the likes of like Tanakas, that would work absolutely fine with the hop arm. Or I do actually have a 3D printable hop arm that should fit this chamber because it does look VSR spec. Or again, this is if the arm itself is VSR spec and I don't have a standard chamber to test, then a concave arm from Maple Leaf, TDC, etc. would be fine. Or you could just modify this, file it out, and give it more concave shape. But so far, that's an improvement. Like, that's better than the standard polymer arm you would normally get. So I'm just going to shove this back together, which is a case of put it in, line up the cuts on either side. So that cut on the barrel lines up with the cut on the chamber, and once it's in properly, it shouldn't rotate. Drop your hop arm adjuster on. Yeah, and the benefit of this, as I said, is that horseshoe section there you'd normally have on a VSR isn't present, which should make assembling this, if I put it around the right way, should make assembling this a hell of a lot easier because you can just drop it on. So when I said I had no seal, I would assume it's that bucking. That bucking was very loose fitting on the barrel. But again, all this feedback, because I'm offering an unbiased opinion, right? This is valid feedback, whether I bought it or it was given to me or whatever, doesn't change the fact that these are real things that I'm seeing in this platform. But they're little things that can be tweaked, right? A barrel's not a massively expensive upgrade. A bucking's not an expensive upgrade. That hop arm will be suitable if you are using something like a traditional 9-ball. If you're looking to use something more like the Flamingo, the Maple Leafs, the Modify X range, then you're going to want something with a concave hop arm or a TDC. So, and again, for the price, this isn't bad, right? You pay this much for some of the other VSR style clones out there, right? Initially, the quality is just never that good, but you're not getting much with it. You're just getting the platform in one mag. This is coming with 3 mags, the bipod. You think most mags are about a tenner each, so you've got 20 quids of extra mags there. Bipod's what, 20, 25 quid? So you've got 45 quid's worth of stuff right there. Scope and scope mounts obviously is a cheap scope. All the feedback and criticisms that I'm having, bear in mind this is a very, very cheap platform, right? This is along the lines of a Cyma CM701, not the upgraded standard, or a Well MB03, etc. The adjuster's fine. Actually, you know what? That will hop heavy ammo. That nub is coming through absolutely fine. And it's holding its position. Yeah, I'll take it back. That'll probably be okay with 4s. But the main thing is, you can put a VSR bucking, you can put a VSR barrel in, so immediately, that's good. And the chamber itself is fine, you know, it's a standard VSR style. Obviously had no seal, but I was only testing at the barrel because I hadn't had it apart, so... Oh no. So yeah, so the leak that I was having then was definitely from here, because that... Yeah, okay, so that's sealing. I don't know what the internals are yet, we're about to have a look. But that is sealing, so yeah, the leak that I was having is clearly just the hop unit and barrel area, which is almost always where it is in most platforms. So that's fine. Let's have a look at the trigger and the internals. So, as with all VSR style platforms, 2 screws front and back. Phillips screwdrivers in this case. But the moment of truth is this a 45 or a 90 degree trigger? It feels like a 90. Usually with a 45 there's a bit of grind at the top and you can just feel it when you cock it. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, it's on video and I look silly. Pop it off. Boom, there we go. That is a nice chunky 90 degree trigger. Immediately is a very good sign. Strong springs, really smooth. The way that's been angled off like that at the front, that chamfer, I appreciate that. I like that. Not a sharp angular face. That's a nice smooth chamfer. None of it feels particularly sharp. Oh well, I'm going to get that in camera. Focus camera. Focus. Point where you focus. So yeah, that nice and smooth, no sharp edges. Quite a nice chunky trigger box. Obviously, spring guide stopper as well. So the fact that the price it is, with the mags, the bipod, the scope, so far we've already seen that we can swap out the VSR buck in the VSR barrel, and there's a potential there for VSR hop arms TDC. Trigger is a nice chunky 90 degree. My only concern now though, and I'm fingers crossed this isn't the case, but there is a period, and if anyone's been around and teching airsoft snipers for a long time, there was some random period where companies were trying to do 90 degree triggers, but were still providing 45 degree pistons. So I'm hoping this isn't the case. Slide that out. Make sure you don't lose your guide ring, because it isn't fixed in place. It literally just sits inside that receiver. I believe, I don't have a magnet to hand, but I think this is a steel cylinder and it's pinned, not crimped. And if you've watched my other videos where I go on about pinned and crimped cylinders, this has got 4 pins at the 12, 3, 6 and 9 position. So that immediately is telling me that's going to be a half decent cylinder. And I'm looking at inside. That is a 90 degree trigger.
Are you sure about that?
90 degree sear, sorry, 90 degree trigger. So far, this is looking good. We've got a metal spring guide. Let's get this, and you know, we've done nothing to it. We have got a seal at the muzzle end. It was just the hop we didn't. Oof, that's got some long old threads on it. Now, of all the things that I've made and got machined, I should really get a cylinder head removal tool rather than using good old pliers. Wow, that is a really long cylinder head. So that's an unusual choice. So they've put an O-ring down here at the base. It's an unusual choice, but it ain't a bad choice. So they've put the O-ring here at the base rather than at the top. So it's sealing pre-thread, which is actually clever. I appreciate that. That is clever. The cylinder head is a standard flat-faced, and the piston, from what I just saw, is a flat face, which is fine. Like, you could modify this, get a Dremel, chamfer it out. I don't have many APS2 parts here to test, but I don't think that is going to fit APS2. But realistically, might not need to actually change that out because we are getting a seal. Get all this out. Unusual choice here, right? So standard 90 degree piston. That's fine, we're happy with that. Some kind of polymer guide rings. Standard rubber head, standard O-ring, so like the most as traditional as you could get. Like, it's very akin to like a standard Action Army piston. But this is stock. This isn't polymer. This is a aluminium bodied, I'd assume, piston with guide rings, with a 90 degree sear to go with a 90 degree trigger in a stock rifle. What is strange is this is a 13mm spring, which goes in the piston fine. This is great. Like, so far, this is not looking too bad at all. We've got a metal spring guide, but this is for 7mm springs. 11mm spring, well, it depends if you're measuring in or out, but this is for standard, really small, thin VSR springs. This is for a 9mm spring guide, so this is like what you would use with like a Wasp or something. So that's very slack on there. So that's an unusual choice. That should be 9mm, but this is all feedback I'll give Specna Arms anyway. But so far for the price, that isn't bad at all. Power-wise, this was supposed to be at about 2.3 joules, I think. Even the spring guide itself seems fine. It's just the wrong spring guide, right? It should be a 9mm. I don't have any 9mm here, but the same spring guide you'd get with a Wasp or a PDI. PDI do it. This is all genuinely positive stuff. Like, we already know this seals. It cocks fine. The cylinder's good. Cylinder head's fine. I do have a Wasp here. Okay. That's a Wasp with a VSR cut, and it fits. There's a potential for a Wasp to fit in this. The air brake is perfectly sized for the nozzle. So that's, in the next video, if I can do some upgrades in this, I'm going to do that. But for now, I'm relatively confident that will cock. It's about the same length. The Wasp is inherently a little larger, but the way it catches is different. The air brake's fine. The Wasp does work with flat cylinder heads. This material is resistant enough to be absolutely fine at absorbing that impact. It is just more efficient if it is a concave face. That's good news in itself, because the Wasp will obviously replace this, and it will replace the piston, and everything else you wouldn't need to touch. The trigger's 90 degree, cylinder's suitable, top unit just needs a new bucking and barrel. I don't know if you can see my hands, but everything is covered in grease. Again, I mentioned at the start of the video, these are kept on a shelf, these are transported, so they do tend to, at the factory, not Specna Arms specifically, but at the factory, they do tend to be very liberal with the grease and everything to stop everything rusting. But so far, this is not bad. This is not bad at all. For the price, I'm pleasantly surprised because I was expecting a bit of a mismatch of parts. Not being able to change the hop unit out for something else isn't really a problem if this hop unit does its job, which by design and looking at it, I think it will. This is the only thing that I think is a bit odd. Wrong size spring guide for the spring and piston they're using. It will function, but it's not the right thing you'd want to use. But otherwise, that's good, because that tells me this is very nearly a VSR spec cylinder. I was going to check, see if a VSR cylinder head would thread on. This is one of my VSR damper heads, by the way. No, okay, yeah. The thread pitch is ever so slightly different. I'm going to put it back together now. So reassembly, by the way, is literally spring guide in, spring on the spring guide, piston back in. At this stage though, so as with everything, strip all the grease off, dry PTFE spray on the outside of the cylinder, silicone oil on the O-ring, and that's it. And then just put it all back together. So we already know it seals. And I'm going to have this apart again. My only thing that actually did not concern me, but I was a bit confused about, and it was hard to see when I had the rifle together, is it did look like the nozzle was a bit too short to fully seat in the bucket. Because that is something I have seen with some of the clone rifles. No, that does seem to sit in there. Yeah, no, I'll take it back. I think the lips on this particular hot rubber are just a bit misshapen, so even though I can see it going in, it just doesn't feel right. Genuinely surprised by that. As I said, the only slight quirk really is the small spring guide, but that's a cheap part. Like this end of the platform, nothing really needs to be changed. Just get a suitable spring for whatever power you want, knowing that you can potentially swap that piston out to normal VSR spec. I'm going to say this is closer to an SSG cylinder in terms of size, because this is a VSR one and it fit. It might have been the grease that is making this feel rough, but this has got a VSR cup on it, which is larger than an SSG cup. SSG internal cylinder diameters vary from 21.8 up to 22, whereas a traditional TM spec VSR is 22.4. And it's always close to 22.4. So the cup size is the main difference between this and the SSG. I'll grab myself one of my SSG cups if I haven't got any knocking around, and I'll give it a test of that in another video. I might even just make a quick reel out of it, or a short, because that then makes this an option, which is, that's nice. I've tested it, make sure it all cocks, etc. But that is the Specna Arms SA-02, which I think, for the price, isn't really bad. With what you get for the package, everything is the upgrade path you would want, right? You would normally upgrade your trigger to a 90 degree. You'd upgrade your piston and your spring guide. This, as an out-of-the-box platform, has all the longevity parts, let's say, that you need. The first thing, if I was to upgrade this, the first thing I would do, knowing that I'm quite comfortable with that, is get a 9mm guide, just because that's triggering me. I don't understand that, but that's such a minor thing. And swapping a bucking and barrel out and maybe knocking up a 3D printed arm or a TDC or something. But for the base cost and the overall quality and all the extra bits you get, that's not bad at all. Genuinely impressed with that. But I will have nightmares about that spring guide. That is OCD nightmare. That's like getting a monster truck, putting 3 giant tyres on it, and then putting the 4th tyre as something from a Fiesta. I don't really get it. That might just be a quirk, who knows. But again, overall, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's bad at all. I'll hopefully do some more content on what I do in regards to the hop-up, etc. For anyone looking at this, or just curious about it as a platform, I believe this is a later gen one, as I said, because the early ones didn't seem to have the 90. But yeah, any questions, leave it in the comments. Do the usual like, follow, and all that jazz. Keep an eye out for some more content, because I have got 2 other Specna Arms rifles that I'm having a look at, and I've got something from Hadron to look at. I have the Tanaka that I'm slowly rebuilding. I have a KJW takedown coming from Empire, I think. So I'm going to see if I can work some magic on that. And yeah, hopefully this was informative for anyone looking at the platform. See you next time. Bye-bye.